Alrighty people, welcome back to the channel. It's Amiibo here. The other day I posted my top 10 games of 2024, but now I want to look to the future and talk about my most anticipated games of 2025. Now, as of right now, 2025, at least in my opinion, is shaping up to be one of the best years in gaming ever. The funny caveat to that is we basically have no idea what Nintendo has plans. We know, like deep down in our heart of hearts, we know, okay, Switch 2, 3D Mario, maybe Mario Kart coming out, right? And those would certainly be on this list. However, I got it down to 10 games, and I'm only including games that are actually announced and slated for next year. So while I think this list will change a little bit when Nintendo announces the Switch 2, I wanted to keep it locked down to only things we actually, like, with certainty know are coming out next year, or, you know, at least currently slated for next year. I think some of these will probably end up getting delayed. I also did not really go too hard on remasters or remakes. There is one remaster that I'm including here because I don't care, you know, boo your remaster rules. I wanted to talk about it anyway, and it's actually pretty high up on my my anticipation list. But without further ado, let's get into my most anticipated games of 2025. We will also have some honorable mentions to get into towards the end of the video, just things that weren't quite, you know, up to snuff to make the cut for the list. But starting off at number 10 is a game that a few weeks ago would not have been on this list, which is why it's so low on the list, because frankly, I haven't really ever been excited for a game in the series, so the fact that I'm even excited for this at all is interesting to me. Like, it's different for me, but it's not something I've been, like, waiting for years, so compared to a lot of other things on this list, it's not necessarily as exciting to me, but it is something that I've grown a lot of anticipation for over the past couple of weeks, and that is Dynasty Warriors Origins. So if you've been watching my pickups videos for the past couple of weeks, you know I've been on a huge Dynasty Warriors kick, and, you know, I've always grown up loving, like, the tie-in stuff, Dragon Quest Warriors or Heroes, Hyrule Warriors, Fire Emblem Warriors, One Piece Pirate Warriors. Like, I love these games. I have a little bit of experience with the core series, and especially recently I've been playing a lot of, like, Dynasty Warriors 3 as well as 7 on the PS3, but I've never actually, like, experienced a new Dynasty Warriors launch, and I played that Dynasty Warriors Origins demo, and I was like, ooh, this kind of got some sauce to it. Definitely still very Warriors-like, if you like Warriors, you like Warriors. If you don't like Warriors, you don't like Warriors, but I'm really excited for this game, not necessarily just from, like, the game perspective of it, but also coming at it from the angle of, like, a new Dynasty Warriors fan. I've played a lot of these tie-in games over my life, but I've never played one of the core entries, so getting more involved with, like, the community and the fandom and stuff has been a lot of fun leading up to the release of this game, and yeah, I can't wait to play this, and this is our first major release of 2025, so we only have a few weeks to wait until we can play this game, and I am very, very excited for this one. Next up is the game that I think would be at the top of a lot of people's lists. However, I'm not putting it on this list for, like, the reasons most people probably would. I am excited to play it, but that is Grand Theft Auto 6. Now, big disclaimer on this, I'm not really convinced that this game is even releasing next year. I think it could easily slip to 2026, but, you know, growing up, I played San Andreas some. I played a lot of GTA 4 on 360, actually. And then, you know, I've dabbled with some GTA 5 and online as well. But GTA as a franchise is not something I've ever been, like, that in love with, right? I think Rockstar makes great games. I love Red Dead Redemption. But GTA, if this were, like, any normal game and it had a different name, like, I probably wouldn't be that interested. However, as someone who has been following the games industry for so long, you know, I listen to podcasts, I obviously cover Nintendo news and video game news on my channels, and I collect stuff here. I'm mostly excited for GTA 6 just to see the impact it has. I'm going to play it, no doubt about it, even though, like I said, I never even finished the GTA 5 story mode. I'm going to play the game. I'm excited for it just to see the impact it makes, see how many records this game breaks, just to see, like, the conversation around GTA 6 is number 9 on my list. I know that might be funny to some people, but as someone who loves talking about games, this is an event, and if it actually does release in 2025, I mean, that is going to be the biggest release of the year. So just from that, like, my own curiosity around the launch of this game, how much money is it going to make? How, like, it's going to be crazy. If this game, like, actually releases this year, or really whenever it does release, even if it is 2026, this game is going to be such a fun thing to talk about for years to come. I mean, GTA 5 is still fun to talk about how well that game sells. So GTA 6, I'm actually putting on my list, not necessarily just because I'm excited to play it, because I am excited to play it, but from the conversation perspective, I think GTA 6 is going to be a very interesting one. Next up is a game that was just announced at the Game Awards. I almost forgot to put it on the list, but then I was looking through a list of 2025 releases, and I was like, oh my god, yeah, that's coming out in March. Split Fiction from Hazelight. This is the developer that made It Takes Two, which won Game of the Year 2021. It was not my personal Game of the Year that year. Metroid Dread still has my heart, but It Takes Two was certainly a close second place for 2021, in my opinion. It Takes Two is an absolutely fantastic game. I loved playing through that game with Olivia, you know, someone who doesn't really play that many console games. It was pure bliss. Pure pure bliss of a co-op experience, and Split Fiction looks just as good, if not even better. There's been some hands-on previews from press saying it is even better than It Takes Two. I almost find that hard to believe because It Takes Two is a masterpiece in my opinion, so it's pretty low on this list just because while I think mechanically and gameplay-wise, like, I'm going to have more fun with Split Fiction than probably some of these other games that are higher up, it's a new IP, right? It is a co-op game. I'm in it for the mechanics. I'm not in it for, like, the lore and the world and all that, right? So I know I'll have a ton of fun playing Split Fiction, but it is, like, a new kind of unproven thing, which is why it's a little bit lower on the list. But yeah, Split Fiction, I absolutely cannot wait to play. Coming in at number 7, we have another game. This is the other game on this list I'm not really confident in coming out in 2025, given this publisher's recent track record, but that is Professor Layton and the New World of Steam. I was shocked when they announced this back in 2023, and at that point, I think they just said 2024. They may not have even put a date on it, but Level 5 has been so spotty with actually getting their games out. This game is currently slated for 2025, and while I really want to believe it, I'm not convinced they'll actually make it across the finish line next year, but Professor Layton and the New World of Steam, we're actually getting a proper sequel to Azra Legacy, but also I'm not quite sure if it's actually taking place after Unbound Future. I think it is. I think it is taking place after Unbound Future, which we have not seen, like a proper Layton sequel do that since Unbound Future. Obviously, we had the prequel trilogy, and then we had Catriel, but to get a proper new entry in the Professor Layton series, starring my boy Herschel Layton and Luke as well, is so exciting. I hope the puzzles are on point. Visually, it looks stunning. I really love the visual style here, which is something that I have issue with the 3DS games, Miracle Mask and Azra Legacy. I don't love the 3D models and like the art style they have for those games, but seeing it on Switch now, I think this game looks absolutely fantastic, and I really hope it actually releases in 2025, and I hope that it is truly the start of a renaissance of Level 5 games. I mean, we're getting Fantasy Life, I think, in April or something like that, and maybe that'll be the true start of it if that game, comes out and is very good, but Professor Layton is like the IP that you can't mess this up, Level 5. If you mess up Professor Layton, you might as well never come back. So I'm a little cautious on this one, but I am very excited to see the return of one of my favorite DS franchises, and that should be a very exciting Switch exclusive in 2025. Next up, we have another game that was actually announced at the Game Awards, and that is Elden Ring Night Rain. Now, me and From Software, we have a little bit of a weird history, right? I have not beaten most Dark Souls games, but I've played every single one. I love Sekiro. Sekiro was far and away my game of the year 2019. It really wasn't close, to be honest. Sekiro is a masterpiece. I have not finished Elden Ring. I need to go back and do that soon. I played like probably 20-30 hours of it, somewhere in that range. I really enjoyed what I played of it, but I kind of suck at From Software games. Sekiro, people always say Sekiro is the hardest. I had the easiest time with Sekiro, even though there were some of the hardest bosses I've ever beaten in a game, but also some of the most satisfaction I've had from beating a boss. Elden Ring Night Rain will depend heavily on what my friend group is doing with that game when it comes out, right? I think it's 3 players, so I imagine I'll play quite a bit of this game. That's how I envision it. From Software multiplayer has always been very frustrating to me, especially because there hasn't been crossplay. I'm not sure if they've said Night Rain will be crossplay or not, but, I play on console. I don't play PC games. I have a lot of friends who play From Software stuff, but they play it on PC. So, like, when Elden Ring came out, we couldn't play Elden Ring together. And even if we could, the way the online works in these games is always really frustrating. So, to have a proper, roguelike Elden Ring game where you're just running around this map and there's, like, a Fortnite circle coming at you and you're just fighting bosses with friends, that sounds like so much fun to me. And, From Software game design and, like, boss design is just top-notch. So, Elden Ring Night Rain, I know it's, people are a little bit skeptical of this because it is their first time trying like a full multiplayer thing, but as long as it's just the quality of the Elden Ring but proper multiplayer, that's going to be really freaking good. Even if a little bit of that discovery element that you come to love from Souls games isn't there, the boss fights in Souls games are what really everybody talks about. So to have like almost like a boss rush multiplayer thing with Elden Ring bosses, but also Dark Souls bosses are in there is that's really exciting, and I really cannot wait for that game, and I think that might be a sleeper hit of the year for me, even though, like I said, it was just announced, and it's probably coming out, I don't know, I'd probably say like summer, maybe August, somewhere in that range. Very quick turnaround, but From Software, in my opinion, hasn't really missed in like over 15 years, so I find it hard to believe that Elden Ring Night Rain will come out and be a disappointment, so yeah, very, very excited for that game. But next up at number 5, we start getting into whatever Nintendo stuff we do know about. Obviously, I have a Nintendo bias. I'm going to be a little bit more excited for Nintendo stuff. And number 5 is actually, I would say, for a lot of people, this would be the most exciting Nintendo thing next year, but I actually have a couple other things ahead of it. But number 5 is Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. I love Metroid to death. I love 2D Metroid. 2D Metroid. That's the asterisk. I've been very outspoken on my channel that I don't I don't love Metroid Prime. I gotta be honest. I respect Metroid Prime. I can respect that people love it, but it's not a game that I played and was like blown away by, right? Not the way I was blown away when I played Super Metroid for the first time in like 2013, and Metroid Fusion around that same time, like Metroid Dread, even Zero Mission, even Samus Returns. I think 2D Metroid is like top notch. I really do think. I've personally not played many Metroidvanias that even come close to even the worst 2D Metroid. So for me, Metroid Prime isn't that great. But I am excited to see what a big budget Nintendo game that had, 7 years in the oven and, Retro's first project since Tropical Freeze came out in 2014. I am so curious to see what this looks like. A modern Metroid Prime. I mean, we haven't had a Metroid Prime game in almost 20 years. So I'm really curious to see what the modern design affordances are. What do they change to make it more mainstream, that kind of stuff. From what we saw in the trailer, it looked very Metroid Prime, and I think that was very intentional. I think in that trailer, they just wanted to make sure that Metroid Prime fans knew this is a Metroid Prime game. I'm hoping that they change it up a little bit, though. Maybe make it a little bit faster, make the combat faster, add some fast traveling stuff, maybe make it open world. I'm not quite sure how they're going to do all that, but Metroid Prime 4, similar to GTA 6 actually, it's like a prove it moment for me of like, okay, I don't love Metroid Prime in general right now, to be honest. However, it's been so long. Not only am I excited to play the game, I'm just curious to see, it's been so long. I'd be shocked if this isn't at least my favorite Metroid Prime game, and I'd be shocked if I don't think it's great. Even though I don't love the other Metroid Prime games, I just feel like it's been so long. I just would be surprised if Metroid Prime 4 Beyond comes out and I don't love it, given how long it's been. But maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe Metroid Prime 4 won't even be in my, top 10 of the year, next year list with how stacked 2025 is shaping up to be. But it is a game I'm very excited for. And even if I don't love it, as long as, Metroid Prime diehards love it, that's enough for me. So that's one I have my eye on that. I really want to see more of it. And I do think it will appease both audiences. I think it will appease the core Metroid Prime fans, but I think it'll also be a little bit more sped up, a little bit more fast-paced action-y, which is what I'm looking for. I can't wait to see what 7 years of a Western-developed Nintendo game looks like. I mean, that's probably Nintendo's most expensive game they've ever made, given that they're located in Austin, Texas. I can't wait for Metroid Prime 4, just to see if Retro really has what it takes to make a new Metroid Prime game, 20 years later. With that being said, though, we have another Nintendo game at number 4. This is my one caveat to my rule. This is a remake. This is a remaster. That is Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. Now, I know what you're thinking. I actually got comments about this on my reaction on the other channel. I saw so many people being like, Bo, why are you so excited for this? This is a Wii U game. You could have played this already. Yeah, but I didn't. You can't really see it that well, but I have a Xenoblade Shrine. Xenoblade Chronicles is easily one of my favorite gaming franchises of all time. Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I've said many times, is, if not my favorite game of all time, one of my favorite games of all time, and definitely my favorite Nintendo Switch game. I've never played Xenoblade X, though, and that is because I got into Xenoblade in full depth with Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I played Xenoblade 1 before that. I wasn't really loving it, to be completely honest, and eventually I went back and played it when it came to Switch, but, I tried playing it on Wii and 3DS, and I was like, this isn't that great, honestly. I think Xenoblade 1 is definitely the weakest of the three. Hot take, I know. But ever since Xenoblade 2 got me to fall in love with the franchise, then I played Xenoblade 1, then I played Xenoblade 3, love that game. I've been waiting for Xenoblade X to be ported. I have Xenoblade X on Wii U, but I refused to play it on Wii U because I knew there was no way that they were going to port Tokyo Mirage Sessions and all these random Wii U games and not Xenoblade X, the biggest game on Wii U. There was no way that was not going to happen eventually, even though they were saying we currently have no plans for Xenoblade X. BS. I knew it was BS. So Xenoblade X, as a diehard Xenoblade fan, as someone who has been waiting for this game to get ported for, the past 7 years, I cannot wait to play this game. I'm curious to see what the new story content is. I know it's a very different Xenoblade game, and I do worry that, similar to why I don't love Xenoblade 1 that much, the world of Xenoblade 1, the characters, the story, that is all top-notch. The music. My issue with Xenoblade 1 is the gameplay. I don't think Xenoblade 1 is a very fun video game. I worry that Xenoblade X, I might fall into that same trap there, because from what I've seen of Xenoblade X, the combat, it seems very similar. You got those circular things on the menu, and you're kind of cycling through them. I'm a little worried I won't love the gameplay of Xenoblade X, and maybe it'll end up being a wash for me. Maybe it'll end up being my least favorite Xenoblade game. But either way, I cannot wait to play that and finally play through the only Xenoblade game I have not touched up to this point. So that is number 4 on my list. And now we get to the top 3, which is funny. I noticed we actually have one game from each of the major big three publishers here. Maybe you can guess what those are based on my personal taste and also what's announced for 2025. But at number 3, I have a Ghost of Yotei from Sucker Punch and Sony. 2020 was a fantastic year for PlayStation. I don't think anybody's really denying that. They had so many great games released that year between Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima, Spider-Man Miles Morales came out, Demon's Souls Remake. Like, it was an incredible year for PlayStation. Most people would say Last of Us 2 is their favorite game from that year, and I played that for the first time in 2024. Last of Us Part 2 is a fantastic game. However, for me, Ghost of Tsushima is one of my favorite games of 2020 and one of my favorite Sony games probably ever, and I think it's probably my favorite game they released during the PS4 generation, which is crazy to say, but I played it on PS5 when the Director's Cut came out, and I absolutely loved it. I know it's very, like, it feels very much like a Ubisoft game, like you're just going to areas on the map and you're kind of just, checking off outposts, but something about Jen's story and just the, like, visually, this game is so nice. Like, it has, like, that realistic flair to it, but it also has, like, this very, like, artistic look. You have, like, the wind guiding you places. You have all these really interesting little side activities with, like, the foxes you find. The combat, it feels very good. Like, the combat in Ghost of Tsushima is very good. And while we haven't seen much of Ghost of Yotei, I'll admit I was a little disappointed to see it wasn't a continuation of Jen's story. I can't remember this new character's name, but I'm curious to see where her story goes and what leads her down this path. But Ghost of Yotei, Sucker Punch has proved themselves, in my opinion. I love Infamous. I love Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Yotei, by all accounts, should be better than Ghost of Tsushima, at least in theory, right? Because they're just building upon it. So Ghost of Yotei is my number 3. Number 2 is another Nintendo game. This one, I feel a little weird putting so high because we don't even really know what it is. We have not seen it. However, I'm a Pokemon fan. Pokemon Legends EA. I am so curious what this game even is. I'm not convinced it's even going to be like Legends Arceus. Like, Legends Arceus was still a huge departure from core Pokemon gameplay, right? You're running around like these Breath of the Wild environments, throwing your Pokeball with a button. I'm not even convinced it's going to be like that. I'm not convinced you're not going to be playing as a Pokemon in this game. They have the Synchro stuff in the Scarlet and Violet DLC, and then in this reveal trailer, they show like the perspective of like running around as a Pikachu, and it's all set in Lumio City apparently. X and Y are some of my favorite Pokemon games. Gen 6 as a whole, I'm just very deeply nostalgic for. So for them to go back to Kalos and make it a Legends game, get more lore with AZ and all that, like, I am so excited for Legends EA, even though we haven't seen it. And beyond like the concept of what the game is being I'm very interested in that. This is the longest time that a Pokemon game has ever had in development. We will have gone 2 full holidays, almost 3 if this releases next holiday. We've never gone that long without a Pokemon game. I'm itching, man. Normally, around Christmas time, November, holiday time, I am playing Pokemon shiny hunting with the family, right? Like, that is what I do while football's playing on the TV or something. I have not had that for 2 years now since Scarlet and Violet. I'm itching for a Pokemon game, and Legends Arceus is one of my favorite Switch games. I think Legends Arceus is an incredible, incredible game, so I trust Game Freak. I trust that they're cooking it. I was shocked that we didn't see more of it in 2025. I really thought, like, why announce it in February if you're not going to show more of it in August when we normally get a Pokemon Presents, or maybe even later in the year. But the fact that they didn't show it makes me even more excited, because I'm just like, wow, they're taking their time. They're taking the feedback to heart. So I don't know if this will be like maybe a Switch 2 thing, and obviously still be on Switch 1, but maybe it'll be a Switch 2 thing, and maybe that's why they haven't shown it yet. But I'm so excited for Legends EA. I really, even though we haven't seen it, and even though the trailer doesn't really incite that much imagination in me, I trust that a Pokemon game with the Legends branding on it is probably, I think there's a good chance this is my game of the year next year. It's not my most anticipated because we haven't seen it, but I think there's a good chance we come out of 2025 and I say that Legends EA was my favorite game of 2025. But we'll have to wait and see. I need to see that gameplay, but I cannot wait for that game. And before we get to number 1, I do have some honorable mentions here. Monster Hunter Wilds, that one's going to really depend on my friend group and how much I play it, because, like, there's a chance, even though I'm very excited for Monster Hunter Wilds, there's a chance I either put 200 hours into it or, like, 10, right? Like, there's a chance I don't play that much of it, depending on how much my friends play it. So, Monster Hunter Wilds, we will see on. I'm definitely going to pick it up and try it out. I am excited for it. Capcom doesn't really miss, in my opinion. But, yeah, that's what I'm excited for. I wanted to mention that. 2 anime games, Bleach, Rebirth of Souls. We're finally getting a Bleach console game after so long. I love Bleach. So, the fact that we're getting a proper Bleach fighting game, we've really never had one, at least not in America, right? We had all the Heat the Soul games on PSP, but, those were on PSP and also only in Japan. And then there was, like, some DS games, and then we had Soul Resurrection, which was a Warriors game on PS3. if we did get any like actual Bleach fighting games, maybe there was the one on Wii or something. Like Bleach has not gotten the same treatment of like in One Piece, Naruto, and Dragon Ball in terms of fighting games. So I'm very, very excited for Rebirth of Souls. I think that comes out in March or April. Demon Slayer Hinokami Chronicles 2, also very excited for that. Demon Slayer, not an IP I super love. Like I've read the manga, I finished it. It's good, like it's solid. But the game, Hinokami Chronicles, very good. Cyberconnect 2 doesn't really miss in my opinion. Of course, they do Storm games. I love Naruto Storm. And Demon Slayer Hinokami Chronicles, probably their best game mechanically, so excited to see what they kind of improve in the sequel. Here's a random one that I really don't have much experience with this series. However, I learned that this new entry, I guess, is supposed to be more linear, which immediately made me way, way more interested in it, and that is Mafia: The Old Country. I love like Mafia. I love that setting, right? Like that's very, very good setting. I played The Godfather on PS2 a lot with my stepdad. So Mafia: The Old Country, the fact that it is apparently more linear has me very curious. And then finally, just a ton of like JRPG collections and remasters are releasing in 2025. With all these new games, I worry that I won't really be able to keep up with them because I'm just looking at a list. I mean, we have the Oath of Helgana, the new East remaster on PS5 and Switch, Freedom Wars remastered, Tales of Grace's F remastered, Suikoden 1 and 2 are getting a remaster collection, Lunar is getting a remaster collection, Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD, and I'm probably missing a bunch of other stuff. Like, there are so many RPG remasters and collections coming out next year that I'm excited for, but I don't know if I'll get to them, so I'm not putting them on this list, but I wanted to shout them out because 2025 is secretly the year of the JRPG Part 2, you know, so wanted to shout out those. But finally, my most anticipated game of 2025, drumroll please. Can you guess what it is? I'm actually curious, like, I don't know if I've revealed this about myself enough to you guys, but I love FPS games. And at the Xbox E3 show last year, they revealed a banger. I can already tell this game is going to be a banger, and that is Doom: The Dark Ages. Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal are some of my favorite games of all time. I know there's like a whole debate of like, oh, 2016 is better than Eternal. That's nonsense. Eternal is better. I don't really think it's that close, although to be fair to 2016, Doom 2016 is also just an incredible game. Both of these games are incredible. Doom Eternal, right up there with Ghost of Tsushima for me in terms of like 2020 Game of the Year contenders, right? Like they're both very close. I love the modern Doom games. Id Software be cooking. And Doom: The Dark Ages, from the little bit we've seen, just looks so good. You're putting Doom in a medieval setting with like dragons and stuff, and its shield has a chainsaw on it. Oh my god, it looks so good. They have not missed in like their modern Doom Renaissance era. So for them to, they've been slowly getting crazier with it, right? Doom 2016, pretty bare bones, right? But the gameplay and the mechanics, like they had it down pat with that revival. Then Doom Eternal added some more like platforming elements, also some like more specific enemy types that you have to like do specific things like the Marauder, right? And now Doom: The Dark Ages, they're just going crazy. They're like, yeah, we're in medieval times. You have a chainsaw shield that you can throw, and it comes back to you like Kratos' axe, and then there's dragons. Yeah, okay, man. Doom guy's wearing a freaking like wolf pelt. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm in. That's an absolute day one purchase. I cannot wait for Doom: The Dark Ages. And similar to Pokemon Legends EA, I would say these top three, so Doom, Pokemon, and Ghost of Yotei, like all three of these have a serious shot at being my Game of the Year 2025. Everything else on this list I'm very excited for, but with like caveats to them, right? These top three, I know I'm going to love no matter what. And then, of course, like I said earlier, we don't know what else is releasing next year. I mean, a lot of publishers have gotten a lot better about announcing games close to release, and Nintendo especially, we don't even know when the Switch 2 is coming out. This video will probably be outdated within a month because the Switch 2 is probably getting announced in January, and with a 3D Mario and a Mario Kart game. So when that happens, I'm sorry GTA and Dynasty Warriors, but you're getting kicked off the list because a new 3D Mario game and a new Mario Kart game, the first new Mario Kart game in over a decade? Yeah, I'm going to be excited for that. Plus whatever else. I mean, that's just like scratching the surface. Nintendo releases like 15 games a year. Right now we know about 4. Good Lord, you know, it's going to be an incredible year. So 2025, I am very, very excited for it. 2024, even coming into it, like there was like a lot of games I was excited for, but not like this, man. I think 2025 is going to be an absolute banger. And of course, as always, I want to hear what you guys think in the comments down below. What games coming out next year are you most excited for? You don't have to do your top 10, but like tell me your top 3. What are your top 3 most anticipated games of 2025? I would love to hear and kind of see how your lists differ from mine. I don't think I missed anything obvious. I'm looking through my list here. I mean, Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, excited for that. You know, a lot of random stuff, but I think in terms of my top 10, this is a pretty conclusive list as of right now. But obviously, you know, I mean, Split Fiction and Elden Ring were announced in December, and they're releasing, you know, a few months later. there will probably be games announced in like January, February that release within the calendar year, even in June. There's usually like Astrobot. Astrobot was announced in June and released in September this year. So who knows what will actually happen in 2025? I'm sure this list will change some, but I'm very excited for 2025. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Of course, subscribe here for more collecting content, but also discussion videos like this each and every day, just about some basically daily at this point over on It's Amiibo. Follow me on Twitter at BoTalksGames. Check out my other Nintendo news channel at BoTalksGames as well. And until next time, folks, peace.